unearned fame and fortune are far more destructive than they might appear. And right now, there's no organization on the planet that proves this point more than the WNBA. The league just posted its highest average game viewership in 24 years. They're bringing in massive new sponsorships, at least by the league standard. They're selling out arenas, which used to be unheard of for the WNBA. And this should be a dream come true for everybody involved in the WNBA.
Have you ever wondered why a WNBA standout like Caitlin Clark is receiving criticism? It's not what you might assume. Benefits increased, the league's viewership surged, and women's basketball gained prominence. However, WNBA veterans suddenly began making outrageous charges.
From the executives to the players to the reporters who, for their sins in a past life, have been cursed with the job of covering a women's basketball league, everyone should be overjoyed. But there's a big problem. All of this success, every bit of it, is due to the presence of one player in the league, and that is a generational talent named Caitlin Clark, who, of course, you've heard of. And still probably the only WNBA player whose name you know.
Matt Walsh doesn't think so. He's pointing out the hypocrisy, and he has receipts, he has the information, the figures, and he doesn't hesitate to give names. Stay tuned as we reveal the startling reality of the WNBA's largest dispute to date. What some players are saying behind the scenes is unbelievable. Are you prepared? Come on. Imagine this. When Caitlin Clark takes the court, the WNBA completely changes. She's not merely creating a stir. In women's basketball, she's creating a tsunami.
She's the reason the WNBA just won the lottery. Without Caitlin Clark, nobody cares about any of these players or the league. With her, most people still don't care, but a lot more people care than did before. And everybody knows that, right? Therefore, everyone in the league, other than Caitlin Clark, is doing exactly what so many lottery winners do. They're allowing all of their worst personality traits to surface because they just can't help them.
The WNBA is going through an unprecedented boom. The number of viewers has surged to unprecedented levels. That executives are pinching themselves over an electrifying atmosphere is created by filled arenas. Unheard of in the WNBA at one point, it's as if someone flipped a switch, making women's basketball the newest trend. Ticket in the city.
You know, there are a lot of stories out there about lottery winners who go on to destroy their lives. Something like 70% of them supposedly go bankrupt within a few years. It's not hard to see how that would happen. When you give a lot of money and attention to a person who didn't earn any of it, that person doesn't suddenly change overnight. Instead, more often than not, all of their worst character traits are amplified 10 times over. And in many cases, that leads to a very public and humiliating collapse. This is a principle that doesn't just apply to individuals, it turns out. It applies to organizations, too.
Big money is being drawn to this popularity. Large deals and sponsorships are coming in at an unprecedented rate. Everyone wants a piece of the WNBA pie, as if the floodgates had opened. Players are reaping more rewards. The league is gaining popularity among new fans and receiving attention from unexpected sources. Here's the twist, though. Not everyone is applauding. A few players are complaining. Is it unbelievable? Amidst all of this achievement, unhappiness is simmering.
There's been a lot of resentment in this league lately, in particular since the season began. And the thing about resentment, as we all know, is that it tends to fester over time. It gets worse and worse. That's exactly what we're seeing now.
Without a doubt, it's a puzzle. On the one hand, a league is at last receiving the attention it has long sought. On the other hand, some players appear dissatisfied with what they have been battling for all along. Why? That's the crucial question. Are they envious of Clark's recent rise to fame? Fearful about the implications for their own professions? Or is there more going on underneath the surface?
Race hysteria in the WNBA has somehow reached yet another inflection point. The league is currently in the midst of what really might be the single most contrived racism scandal, certainly in any professional sport, at least since the fake noose in Bubba Wallace's garage. Specifically, a bunch of WNBA players have come out claiming that they've been victimized by racial slurs and other forms of racist attacks. Like, a lot of players are claiming this.
Imagine that the WNBA is experiencing a surge in popularity when all of a sudden a shocking revelation is made. The league in its entirety. We're discussing explosive claims of racism that have the potential to destroy women's basketball. It's similar to someone lighting a match in a gasoline-filled room.
How do you feel about what has happened over the past year with the W since you first came in to where it is now, and obviously the game has grown and there's new fans, but how do you appreciate the new fans without all the noise that's come
I don't
with
appreciate
them?
the new fans that sit there and yell racial slurs at myself, my teammates, and and the people that I play against. Because yeah, those might be opponents, but those are friends too. You know, they don't deserve that. So I don't appreciate the new fans. I think it's okay to do that.
One of the biggest stars in the game, Brittany Griner, makes a startling assertion. She claims that new admirers are yelling insults during games. I guess it unbelievable.
The question that Brittany Griner was asked was about the massive growth of this league, which was dead in the water just a year ago and had been dead for its entire existence. And the reporter asked, what do you think of all the new fans? And like in any other context, when someone says, what do you think of all the new fans that are coming in? Usually it's, oh, it's great. We love how everybody is supporting the league and we're so grateful. None of that. Instead of some gratitude, some appreciation for the people who have saved the WNBA, who pay to come out to see bad players like Brittany Griner, instead of that, we get resentment.
Griner is not alone, though. Another elite athlete, Alyssa Thomas, supports her with some strong remarks of her own.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it. And we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media, and there's no place for it.
Thomas, an 11-year veteran who has witnessed everything, didn't hold back. From a player of her quality, that is a significant accusation. But wait a minute. Here, something doesn't quite add up. Never one to back down from controversy, Matt Walsh begins to disprove these allegations. You know what, though? His eyebrows are not the only ones being raised.
In other words, they're now accusing the people who have started showing up to WNBA games for the first time in more than 2 decades of being horrible racists.
This is the issue that has people perplexed. Where is the evidence? In this day and age, everyone's carried a camera in their pocket. Fans are crammed into arenas, holding up their phones to record every second. What is the reason behind the lack of any recorded incidents?
So now for the fine print. None of these racial slurs we're told about, some of which have supposedly occurred during games, none of them, as far as I'm aware, have actually been caught on camera. Interesting. There's no visual or audio evidence that might substantiate any of this. Not a single credible report, even. That's extremely unusual, obviously, given that there are cameras and smartphones at every WNBA game.
Walsh doesn't hold back. He's calling it what he sees, claiming that these claims are entirely false. Although it's a daring claim, people are considering it. However, let's apply the brakes for a moment. Why would athletes fabricate information so serious? Fans and critics are engaged in a passionate debate over this crucial subject. Are they attempting to incite conflict? Is there another activity taking place in the background?
Then the videos would be all over the internet. But those videos are not all over the internet. They're not anywhere on the internet. So instead, we have to take the player's word for it.
The league is being torn apart by the entire scenario. On the one hand, players may feel like victims and calling for action. However, critics like Walsh have previously called for concrete proof, making snap judgments, and stranded in the middle. Fans, sponsors, and the WNBA's own future.
Nothing about the answer makes sense, even in that context. I mean, why would that be the first thing that Griner mentions when the reporter asks about the fans? Why not say, well, the overwhelming majority of the fans are great people. I'm so happy that they're paying money, and I'm so grateful to have them. Like, why wouldn't you, even if this was happening, why wouldn't you start with that?
Imagine this. Caitlin Clark is dominating the court in a crowded arena with spectators on the edge of their seats. All of a sudden, everything is different. Clark is lying on the ground, holding her face. What just took place? Go back to that crucial game. When Dijonay Carrington reaches for the ball, it explodes. Clark is defeated. The audience explodes in jeers and screams. No foul was called. The referees ignored it. Social networking is booming. Was it deliberate? A mishap? Everyone is analyzing the replay.
As everyone else has seen this angle. I'm calling her in, and I'm saying to her, I need answers.
Enter seasoned USA Today correspondent Christine Brennan. She questioned Carrington regarding the event. Isn't that what reporters do? They pose inquiries. Brennan asks directly.
When you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
Carrington answers.
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am.
It may seem simple, yet there was a strong pushback. The WNBA Players Association disagreed with more than merely Brennan's query. They used nuclear weapons.
Offensive. It's the bare minimum you'd expect under the circumstances. It's the kind of questions that reporters ask male athletes all the time. When there's a foul, when there's a scuffle, it's the same kind of questions. But Carrington immediately gets snippy and obnoxious in response. And then just for asking these questions, Brennan, who incidentally is one of the biggest champions of women's sports in the industry, is now getting dogpiled. In particular, the WNBA Players Association just put out one of the most demented statements imaginable.
Brennan was accused of being unethical and attempting to trick Carrington into telling a false story.
We call BS to unprofessional members of the media like Christine Brennan. You are not fooling anyone. That so-called interview in the name of journalism was a blatant attempt to bait a professional athlete into participating in a narrative that is false and designed to fuel racist, homophobic, and misogynistic vitriol on social media. You cannot hide behind your tenure.
Whoa, all this to inquire about a play. Even Brennan's journalistic integrity was assailed by the Players Association, calling on USA Today to reevaluate its code of ethics. However, inquiring about contentious plays is a component of sports journalism. It frequently occurs in other leagues, when stars are fouled. Why is it different in the WNBA? Reporters inquire about it. However, it seems to be prohibited in the WNBA.
So we're at the point now that journalists can't even ask black players about fouls they commit against Caitlin Clark without being accused of racism and somehow also homophobia for asking the question. That's how much racism there is in the WNBA. Even asking questions is now racist, which I guess we already knew.
What does this signify for women's basketball and sports journalism? Are we about to enter a time when difficult? Are queries frowned upon? And are all inquiries closely examined for potential hidden agendas? This is more than one play. Or inquire any longer that IT has to do with how players, the media, and spectators interact. IT has to do with openness, responsibility, as well as the characteristics of sports journalism. Point one thing is evident as the dust settles. The game of women's basketball is at a turning point. The way it overcomes this obstacle may have a lasting impact on the sport's future and how it is covered.
You're not going to see any of that on video or hear any of it, but just take their word for it. Take the WNBA's word for it. Take the media's word for it. Yet some WNBA players are still upset that the media isn't making an even bigger deal out of the fake racism scandal.
Angel Reese and Asia Wilson joined the picture just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more dramatic. These WNBA players are going to put gasoline on a fire that is already burning. Here's the actual deal, though. The media does more than merely report the narrative. Instead, they are becoming a part of it.
I don't really get to stand up for myself. I don't really get to speak out on things just because I just try to ignore, and I just try to stand strong. Like, I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times. I've been sexualized.
Let's take a moment to discuss Angel Reese. She is criticizing the media, claiming that they have been making money from her suffering. Is it unbelievable? Reese is claiming that they are portraying her as a villain and disregarding her demands for responsibility.
Angel Reese says the media should have done more to combat the ongoing issue of racism in women's basketball before it reached a boiling point.
This story is being spread by the media as if there is no tomorrow, no questioning, and no fact-checking. This is when Matt Walsh enters the picture. He accuses the media of complicity in what he refers to as a manufactured scandal. Walsh claims to be reporting on a phantom catastrophe without even attempting to confirm the assertions. He is drawing comparisons between it and past sports scandals that ended up being nothing.
Reese, however, said her pleas for accountability and action have been repeatedly ignored. Quote, "The media has benefited from my pain and me being villainized to create a narrative," she wrote on X. "They allowed this. This was beneficial to them. Y'all a little late to the party and could have tried to put out this fire way before it started."
And during an interview, what did MVP Asia Wilson have to say about it all?
Asia Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is."
The WNBA is currently attempting to put out fires everywhere, and a statement, they denounced these remarks and pledged to act. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Walsh, however, doesn't think so. He's doubting the efficacy of these actions when there's no reliable proof to support the assertions. This is where things start to become pretty intriguing as all of this drama plays out. In fact, the WNBA is expanding significantly. The average game viewership is at its highest point in 24 years. However, everyone is preoccupied with the dispute rather than applauding this huge victory. It seems as though the league is unable to a respite